Hey, hi Deep. Thank you for joining to our regular Android study jams. And today we're gonna do practical session. We're gonna learn how to do simple calculator app. And actually, hi, Arslan is here to help us. And hi, Tamoki, so nice to see you. We just started. So today we're gonna practice how to create a simple calculator app. And this session will be instructed by Arslan. He will explain today about the design and the implementation of this for the calculator app. So maybe you can start. I'll allow you share.
Hi everyone, today we will be starting with a tip calculator app. So let us open our Android Studio and let us first create a project. So we'll click on File, New Project, and we will select Empty Activity. Then we will name to our project. So, now Android Studio will create the project for us. So let us see what all things we will cover today. So today we will start with XML layouts for Android. So first let us see what we are building. In this code lab we are given a name. So this is basically a tip calculator. In this what we do, we give the total amount of the tip and what percent of tip we want to give, and we select the number of persons that are rating, and it calculates a tip. It suggests us a tip that we should give to the waiter. So it's the total tip that we are using. This is what basically the application is that we are going to build. So we write the amount of the bill and we specify the percentage according to the review of the waiter, and then we select the number of people, and these are the calculated by suggested values for the tip. Let us see if Android Studio has created a project which built this for us. So our project has been created. So we go to res folder, and in this Android main.xml we design our application. Previously we have designed our application through palette. Today we would try to use code more rather than using the drag and drop for getting a better hang of XML. So let us see what layout we have to do today. So this is our main activity main.xml. So we have to create a app something looking like this, our interface. So it would contain edit text. Edit text is this element right here, cost of service, where we can write our text input. This is called edit text view. Then text views, we have already seen what text view is, and today we would learn about radio buttons and radio groups. Radio button and radio groups are basically these things with buttons on it, and then we would learn about switch. Switch is this one. This is a toggle button right here. This is called as switch. So we have already created our project. Now we will see what all things we have to do. So we would start with the constraint layout. It is already defined. Let us remove this view first. Now we have removed this text view. These all things we have already discussed what these are. So XML tags and all we have already covered these. After this we add, we have already covered all these in our previous code lab. Today we will start. Let us look at the design and try to build the class as well. Same to the code. So this is our design. So first we start with edit text. This is our edit text. Constraint view, I will do wrap content. Now in edit text we give a hint because text we have to input in it. So I would define a hint in it. And hint basically, as the name suggests, it would give the hint to the user that what we have to put inside it. So let us see in the layout what hint is, cost of service. So I would write cost of service here.
Arslan, could you please
Yes.
provide the link to the chat?
With it?
The link
This
to
one?
the, yeah. Maybe people want to, Divya want and Tamoki want to follow a little bit through the collab. Oh, thank you.
So we have written our text here. This is showing us some errors. So we can always check our error from there. The text view constraint has no constraint since we have put it inside a constraint layout and we have not defined constraint to it. So it is Android Studio is showing us some warning. Let us see where the constraint should be defined. So it is to the left of parent. So I have constrained it to the left of parent and to the top of parent. So I have defined a constraint and now we can see the warning has gone. Let us take a look at the design and now this contains a radio group. These three parts, amazing, good, and okay, are stored inside a group that is called a radio group. But just before radio group, there is a text written here. How was the service? So for this, we have to define a text view. So I would define a text view here. Again, I have to define a constraint here. I would assign this constraint. I would assign it below the rectangle below. How was the service? And I will constrain it to the this. Since I have constrained it, this is what it will do. How was the service? I will do a question mark. Now after this, I have to define a radio group. I will give a radio group. That one will inside this radio group, I will define radio buttons inside it. inside this very different.
By the way, if Deep or Tomoki, you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, because we are having really intensive tutorial right now, and maybe there are many things that you don't understand.
You can just ask them what they have to do.
Yeah.
I'm just going fast. Then after that, I would give an overview through the modules that are provided. But for now, I'm just going fast. So in this radio button, what text we have to design? We have to define amazing 20%. So I would write the text in text. Side bracket 20%. This is what I would flag it just before. And I would constrain it. Right. I will just copy this radio instead of amazing. We write good. Put 18%. As you can see, our both our buttons are overlapping one another. This is basically because constraint to the top of ID text here. So I would change it instead. I would delete the constraint and drag it this way. And I would constrain it to the button, radio button over here. Now our view is not overlapping. Now I defined one. I have designed another. Just I will change its text to the positive text. This is how after after this I have to define a text view and a switch here. So we need to define another layout here, linear layout, which contains a text view right here and a button that is called switch right here. So I would define a linear layout now. We can use relative layout too, as we have already discussed, but it would be much easier if we just define a linear layout and we align it to horizontal. So I would our width would be match parent here because I want it to stretch all over the screen, and my height would be wrap content. I would assign this item to so I defined linear layout, and inside this linear layout inside this linear layout, what I have to define a text view. First, let me give the orientation to the linear layout. So, what would be the orientation? Would be horizontal, because both the views inside this linear layout would be aligned horizontally. So I have given an orientation to be horizontal, and in this I would define a text view, that is wrap content, and what it is saying, round up tip. Android text. This, and after this I will define switch, that is also wrap content. There are many ways to bring it here with this drag and drop. What I can do to make this button go to that side with this thing. What I can do is, let's just leave it there for now, and then I will just change it. And after this, we have a button called calculate. So I will define a button after this linear layout is completed. That is wrap. So this button, I will define a constraint for this button. So I will define a constraint that let us run in our app and see what this layout is looking like. Just open our app. Let us see. Let that run in background and see what all else we have done. We have defined a edit text. We have created radio buttons. We have also defined a text view here along with a switch, and we have defined a button here, and we have to define another another text view tip amount right here. So let us see what they have done while creating this. So they started. Where is the code? So first they started with edit text. So they have created an edit text right here. That is the first thing that they have done. Apart from that, edit text, they have constrained the edit text to Android input type. They have defined of that edit text, since that edit text would take the input of number. So they have defined a number decimal input type of that edit text. And the hint is cost of service. The hint is basically this text that would disappear once we start typing. So this is the edit text.
What is the parent here?
The parent is the constraint layout. we started defining with we started aligning all the attributes
Okay.
inside this. So this is the parent tree. So how was the service, and we define how was the service, and these all things they have defined. Let us take a look at that code to service question. That is the text tool. This is added tip option. So they have added tip options. They told us about radio buttons. So radio buttons and radio groups. Is there any problem in radio buttons and radio groups, since this is a new topic in XML? So if you have any doubt in radio button and radio group, please ask. So this is a radio button. Orientation, they have also defined the orientation of, since we have not given any orientation to the radio group, it is by default set as vertical. So we can also explicitly define this orientation to be vertical. This is the radio, and inside this radio group they have written all the code for the radio buttons, and after that this is the print text radio. Then they have defined a switch. Instead of creating a linear layout separately, what they have done is they have created a switch along with the text inside it. So this is a whole switch where a text, and this is the part where we click. So let us check the difference between this and this. So this is our code, and this is what our app looks like. So when we click on this,
I think now it looks okay without moving the button to the right. It's okay now. Would we try to make it in the center?
Wait a minute, I'm having some disturbance with my speakers.
Can you hear me now?
Wait a minute. Excuse me, hello.
Hey.
Hello. Yeah,
Is it
I
working?
would just do a quick restart of my system. Till then, can you
Okay,
please
okay.
try to study the I'm just
Sure.
coming in 2 minutes.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Arslan is trying to fix his audio. We can discuss if you have any questions, or if you can give a feedback if you follow the demo. Is it easy or is it difficult? Maybe we should adjust the speed.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The speed is good for me, I think.
Excuse me.
The pace is good for me.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're almost done with the structure of the app in XML, and let me check. So we are just finishing with the structure of the tip calculator, but it's actually not active yet. We need to make this calculator work by activating the buttons to actually calculate the percent of the tips we want to give. And this is going to be the second half of today's study jam. I think while we're waiting, we can just look through the structure. Let me share this link with you all. This is the second collab for today about the calculating the tip. So this is what we are finishing now, just the structure, right? But we are going to add the activity main file. And this is our code here. So we need to, this is like the overview. So we have buttons and we need to add the text. For example, if we add 10 or something, we calculate the tip and calculate the amount of the final amount of money. And I think if, oh, Arslan, are you here?
Yeah.
That's good. I'm just explaining this second half. That's okay. I'm trying to explain the second half, what we are going to do. So now we are just creating the architecture, right? But our app is not active in terms of calculating the tip. Yeah, so I think we almost finished the first part.
Yes. You were asking something about radio groups.
Yeah, I was interested in, so I think now it looks good. We have good appearance of the app without even moving this scrollable thing to the right, right?
So now what we have created. So for now, our app is looking like this.
Yeah.
This is where we write. We have not defined explicitly that this will take integer. This is a radio group, and this is a toggle button, and this is separate. So this is what they are doing. I would just take the code from there because I have not defined many more things. Because see this radio button is selecting all three buttons at a time. They should only select one because the service would either be amazing, good, or okay. So let us take a look at the code that they have provided in the code lab. So we have to look at this. This was about radio buttons. Let me give a quick overview. So this is a button. They have given a width of 0 dp and width of 0 dp and a layout constant of layout height, layout text, and height. this button and then a text view. What they have done is, instead of defining a text right here, calculate, they have created separately. This button is calculate button. Oh, sorry. This is the calculate button right here. And after this calculate button, there is another that is tip amount that they are given. So let us take the code.
Arsan, what are you trying to do? So now we are creating the architecture, the layout of our app. And I think in the second part, we're going to specify.
So I have defined the layout roughly, because this is not what a layout should look like. So I'm just taking the code from the code lab. This is the same thing that they have done. They have just defined extra attributes in the code, which I have not done since I was doing it fast. So let me just take the code from the. You can see they have defined IDs to all the text view, and we have also not defined IDs to any of our views. This would give us error in the future while writing a code. So I've assigned that text inside editors. That is. This is the text. This is the regular iris. This is a regular. This is the regular. And after this regular, there would be another switch, and after that switch, there would be a button. This is our final text. Let us see what looks like now. In this code lab, we would define the functionalities to this buttons and the radio groups that we have defined. This is something that one would be selected because they have explicitly defined NSC. In this POS service, there it is only taking integer, because you can see in the edit text they must have defined Android input type is number decimal. That is the input type is explicitly defined here, so it is just taking numbers. Same goes for the radio group. Orientation is defined as vertical, and then tip options. And in this just selecting one because these are all inside a radio. What we did was we defined radio buttons separately, so it was selecting all three at a time. This is what it is, and this round tip in our previous code, what we did was this button was getting clicked, but right now you can see roundup tip is also changing this toggle button. This is because this text is inside this switch, and what we defined was we defined another text view for it that had no functionality to it, and then we defined a switch to it. So what they have done is they have defined it together. So this is changing through this also. Then this calculator will have some functionality. Then different. So let us now go into the functionalities of our code.
Sorry, so I understand that the text is in the switch,
Yeah.
but how did they make it in the how? Or maybe it's not related to the switch, but what is the difference between this code and your first version, so that it's a little bit more on the center, not so?
In this, let us take a look at this code where switch is defined. See, they have defined a text inside the switch that is rounded. And that is it is constrained to the end of parent and start of parent that it is stretched all over the screen. End of parent code. So in my code, what I did was I defined a text view for this separately and a button for this separately. So when I was clicking on the text view, then this button was not getting clicked. But right now, if I this whole part, if we said this is this roundup tip is also inside the switch. So this is whole constraint. This is stretched all over the screen, but in the text view that I was defining was a linear layout. So that was the main difference between them.
I see. Thank you.
Any other question? So if there is no question, then we will go forward to the functionalities of defining the functionalities to the layout that we have defined. So we would start with starter app overview. So our app is looking like this right now. It contains edit text, which text view and buttons. And then we would go to the main activity.kotlin file where we define where we write the code to define the functionalities for our layout. So this is what this is saying. And then these are all Gradle files that are on writing. These all things we will cover later on, but right now just assume there is some code. I will cover this functionality. What we can do is we can skip this part for now. Because you can task us rather than using. Let us skip this part for now. And this is what our code was previously looking at. So now we define, we refer to the button. We start writing a code. So value, button, and we would import button, my button. So let us take a look at the code. Our button is calculate button. So I will change this to calculate button. We have already seen in our previous code lab what this r.it is name is doing. This better way of view binding. So we have referred to our button. View binding and all we would cover later on. Now, for now, let us do the functionality. Final button right here. This button we are talking about, value now to calculate button. This is what the value button is. Now, if I move forward, calculate tip. So we have to define a method for calculating tip. So as we have covered previously, that for writing a cleaner code, we define a separate function for a functionality in our code. So I would define a method called function calculate tip, and inside this method, I would write the code for calculating tip. So what all things we need for calculating the tip? What we need is, if I take a look at our design, so what we need the cost of the service, and then we would see what the user has selected. Either the user has selected, if the user has selected amazing, then the tip would be 20% of this cost of service. Otherwise, it would be the 18% of this cost of service. Otherwise, it would be 15% of this cost of service. So if I would go here and I would just calculate, function calculate, let us define something. That we define our method would take a variable cost. That is of type. How we define that?
Yeah, maybe there is a hint here. Cost string in text field to double.
What?
I think on the left you have kind of a hint. So there is a cost defined.
And define. There is no problem with this. But let's just let me check out. We have already covered this. Let's look at how we define variable in Kotlin. Variable count is a variable. Variable inside. Let us see. Let us leave this part for now. Let us just study this view bundle. What the bundle is. So this is what our app was. Now we will study about view binding. In order to calculate if your code will need access of all UI elements to read the input from the user. You may recall the earlier code labs. The code needs to find reference to view and like a buttons or text view. So this is a view attribute view. So Android frameworks provide a method find view by ID, that is find view by ID, that give ID to the view, return a reference to it. This approach works, but as you add more views to your app and UI becomes more complex, find UI ID can be cumbersome, that it can be hard to find. So what we to resolve this error, what we did, we studied about view binding. You can learn more about view binding by clicking on this part. This view binding comes under part of Android. Enable this view binding, open the apps build.gradle. So this is our app, this is our Gradle file, and inside this build feature, build features, population, inside this, I will design binding to the queue. So this is this was this would enable view binding feature inside our application. This is so now we can bind views, bind views in our code. So this one is just and we click Alt Enter to import active main binding. This is a view binding code. Now I will copy this. This further. The layout inflator basically fills our layout with the attributes of our XML code. So this now let us see what this line is. This line declares the top level variable in the class for building objects. It's defined at a level because it will be used across multiple methods in main activity class. So what this line means? This line is defined as a top level of our class, and it would be used across multiple methods in our class. So the methods that we will be defining, these view binding will be used across all the methods. So we have defined it on up there. So now let us take a what this line means. This line initializes the binding object which you will see, which you will use to access views in the activity main.x. So this line is used for accessing views. So what are views? Views are basically these all the attributes that we are defined. So these are the views inside it. So this is used to access all that views, and then this is used for setting content in that views. This line set content view binding dot view. So now I would copy this.
I think here they mentioned something about the old way, the better way, and the best way. So are you going to try the old way?
Yeah. The old way is basically what we define in Java and what I am familiar with.
Mhm.
And, this is what new concept has been defined in Kotlin and in the Android Jetpack Compose, which is called as view binding. I have not studied about it before, but let me try to figure it out. And for now, let's just do this code. And in our next code lab, I will definitely give a more better overview about this view binding and what it does. But for now, let us go along with what the code lab says.
Okay.
So this is the old way that is find view by ID that I am familiar with, and what I have done in Java.
Sure.
Just take a look. Now you need to refer a view in your app. You can get it by binding objects instead of calling bind view by ID. A binding object automatically defines reference for every views in your app that has ID. So binding objects basically automatically defines the reference for every views of the ID. So using view binding is so much more convenient than often you don't even need to create a variable to hold a reference to for the. What this is saying is that while using view binding, we don't need to create a variable for holding that. What this means is, let us take a better way of holding. So this is the old way, that is find view by ID and all, and this is what this line was meaning. That instead of writing all this, we can just write this and it would work, because since we have used view binding, instead of my button, the button ID was. See, so this, what this line meant was, so previously in the old ways what we did was we created a variable that stored the ID of that button, r.id.mybutton, that was storing the another variable named my button that had the reference to the button that we needed. And in this line, what we did was we don't need to store in another variable. We just type the binding, calculate button, that is the ID to the button, and then we define a text to it, a button. So our code has become much more shorter in terms of the length and in terms of functionality. This was taking extra space because we have defined another variable in it, and we are storing that the ID of that button inside this variable. So this is what this means. Now go to calculate tip function. I think that time is almost up. Let us cover this function in our next code lab. And for now, let us stop it here.
Okay, if anybody has any questions, it's a nice time to ask. Have about 5 minutes. And if there are no questions, then yeah, maybe we can start here, stop here. And thank you for joining to our sessions. And if you have any suggestions, please, you're welcome to write on our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, or the community platform. And that's it
Dave
for
is
today. Yeah. Go ahead.
Dave is asking something. Hi Dave, I am from Kolkata. He
Excuse
has
me.
messaged me. He messaged me that where I am. I'm from Kolkata.
Okay, thank you, Tomoki, Dev, Javin, for joining us today. And I hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.
You. Bye.
Bye.